Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to a different sort of film video today. I'm such a knobhead. This one is about 5 horror movies that I think need a Blu-ray release. Now in America these may well have had a Blu-ray release, but here in the UK they've probably only ever seen a DVD release, and I think there's a long time that these films really had their sort of opportunity on Blu-ray, and because there's so many amazing films that here in the UK we just have on DVD. So here's 5 of just selected that I think, yeah, I so wish these were on Blu-ray. So the first one we're going to talk about is a Hammer film called The Nanny. Now this is a sort of a suspense sort of thriller drama, but with horror elements, about this evil nanny who's looking after this girl, and she's sort of like quite manipulative and sort of horrible to the girl. She's not a very best sort of nanny, but she is horrible. But it's an absolute fantastic film. It's filmed in black and white, so if it did get a Blu-ray transfer, it would look really, really nice. I believe this came out in the sort of time when they were making films that weren't sort of in between the sort of Draculas and the Frankenstein. There was a gap where they sort of made films like The Two Faces of Dr. Jekyll and all these sort of wonderful films, Fear of the Night, and The Nanny was amongst that one. And it was such a creepy film, and I just think it really deserves to have a proper release in the UK. It does have a DVD release, but it never got anything else than that. And it's about, I know Hammer now sort of like releasing some sort of sometimes a bit obscure films of theirs that weren't so maybe popular, and they sort of bring them out. So it would be really cool if they think about The Nanny. Next up is an American slasher film, which I love, from the 80s, called Alone in the Dark. And this is one with quite a major cast. It's got so many sort of like big names in the film. And it's a really cool slasher film. It's about this sort of psychiatric hospital where we've got these sort of 4 or 5 killers in there. And they've all got different ways of killing people. They're all serial killers. And one night, of course, there's a power shortage and they all escape together. And they go on their rampage, sort of killing people in the town and all this sort of thing. And one of the killers gets befriended by a family, and they take him into his house, and it's a really cool film. And the deaths are not too bad. I mean, they're not overly gory, or not sort of like ones that you can sort of tolerate. It's a very more like a Halloween sort of style than it is to like a gory sort of like Friday the 13th. But it is really cool film, and quite upsetting in a lot of places. And it just seems to have got disappeared. I have it on import on DVD. In the UK, it doesn't even have a DVD release. So it's absolutely crazy. And it's such a great film. It's one of my sort of favourite slasher films of that period, and one of the most underrated slasher films of that period, simply because it doesn't have the releases. Now in America, again, I don't know if it's had a release on Blu-ray. I don't know. But this video is aimed mostly at sort of UK and maybe European. But yeah, Alone in the Dark. I think a 1982 film, I think. Next up is a British horror film called The Ritual, which is more of a modern sort of film. And this is based on a group of lads going out to, I think they're going to Sweden, on a sort of hiking trip. One of their friends has got killed before, so in like a supermarket robbery, and they've taken some of his ashes, I think, and some of his belongings, and taken them with him to sort of like do like a little ceremony about him, and remembering him. But when they get there, they're in this sort of like really deep forest woodlands, and they get lost, and they sort of come across a sort of satanic witchcraft kind of feel around this woods. I don't want to say anything because I don't want to spoil it if you've not seen it. And it turns into one of the best British horror films made in a long time. Absolutely fantastic, and it so deserves a Blu-ray release. It's crazy that this film doesn't get a Blu-ray release. I mean, it's crazy enough that Creep never got a Blu-ray release here in the UK, but I had to get that from abroad, from Australia. But again, it's another British film, and they just do not get Blu-ray releases, which is crazy. So it's like, because these big companies pick them up, they just want the money, so they just dash them out on DVD. Whereas, like, if the copyright went over to a company that cared, Second Sight, Arrow, 88 Films, they would get good releases. Even 4K would be brilliant. So that's another really cool film that would be amazing if it got like a UK release. Now, the next one, let me think, because I'm doing this off the top of my head. What else have we had? The Nanny, we've had Alone in the Dark, we've had The Ritual. So I'm going to go with Death Watch next, which is like a sort of World War One sort of horror film, I want to say, about these British troops that take over this German trench, and it's sort of kind of like this supernatural elements going on there. It's a kind of horror slasher war sort of ghost sort of story, and it's really cool. And it's one of those films that have just disappeared. When it came out, it was really popular, quite popular, and it came out on DVD. I've got it somewhere on DVD, I'm sure I have. If not, I'll probably pick it up, but it never ever saw the light of day on Blu-ray. And it's crazy, absolutely crazy, because it's a wonderful film. Again, really well acted, loads of atmosphere. It has a real good sort of like war atmosphere to it, and sort of like natural, the trenches and stuff like that. And the cast are pretty cool in the film. It's a good cast, pretty well acted. It's quite got some nice bit of gore in there as well, and it's quite eerie and scary. So it's never ever had a proper Blu-ray release. And in fact, the DVD release has just disappeared off the planet, and that's such a shame, because it's such an amazing film. So the last one up, I'm gonna say, will be another American film. Now this has probably got a Blu-ray release in other countries, but it never got it here, and that's Amityville 2: The Possession. It just never seemed to have got a release on its own here, and it's such a core entry into the franchise. Now, this family move into the house where the original Amityville happened, and the son starts to get sort of demonically taken over, and just like as in the original story, the father went mad and killed his family, and it's just sort of like going along the same sort of lines, and the young lad that lives there has taken on this sort of demonic sort of possession. And it's really cool. It's so played out, and the pacing in that film is brilliantly. It's got some great effects in it. It's got some great gore, and it's a fantastic sort of like 80s classic horror film. I'm sure it's an 80s film, and it's absolutely fantastic. It really plays heavily off the demonic sort of side of stuff, and he gets a bit obsessed with his sister, and all this sort of craziness goes on, but it's a really uncomfortable and wonderful watch. So there we are. There's 5 movies that I think deserve at least a Blu-ray release in this country. We've got Death Watch, Amityville 2: The Possession, The Ritual, The Nanny, and of course Alone in the Dark. So come on, companies, pick them up. Hammer, come on, your next release, please do The Nanny. And these other companies, 88 Films, Second Sight, Arrow, 101 Films, or whatever, pick up these other films. Cheers, guys.